Okay. Hello, welcome to our talk, Promote Environments the GitOps Way. Don't stay thirsty, hydrate. Yeah, I'm Alfred Schmid. I'm Head of Platform Engineering in Stedforce GmbH. And
yeah, I'm Kai. I'm platform engineer at Stedforce, and just working together with Alfred on modern platforms and help customers to provide those platforms and create them and maintain them.
yeah, and you can meet us on our booth outside, and we can talk about Helm hydration, about Kubernetes escape room, and the AI game, the AI factory. Yeah, I keep it very short now because we have not much time. And the motivation we will explain in the next slide, the problem to solve, the shift, how we make this possible with the hydration workflow in GitHub workflows, and the key takeaways and discussions. Yeah, so the motivation. Why we decided to investigate hydration patterns. So I read about the hydration pattern about 2 years ago. It was a Google blog post, and I wondered, so why they need this? And we came by ourselves to in the same situation. We had Helm chart updates for different environments, which were very complex and time consuming. And on updates, you cannot see what will change from one minor version to another in the chart. And the automatic updates were not desirable for the complex environments anymore. So we introduced some Helm unit tests to solve the problems, but you cannot solve all the problems with the Helm unit tests. And also on a chart update, you only see one short version update in GitOps history, and that was all. You cannot see what's happening. And due to this fact, it was very often that breaking changes in Helm charts or new resources were overseen, and we had things in the cluster we don't want to have in the clusters. Yeah, and now we decided we want to get this transparent and visible for the users or for the developers by pull requests.
All right, so let's dive a bit into the problem. What's general the issue with normal Helm charts? Let's think about here. You have just a normal Renovate Helm chart with just an umbrella chart. So we have a dependency here with Renovate and just some different value files for different environments. Very easy example. You just have this one dependency here, nothing special, right? You have just maybe a Renovate JSON for your automatic updates, and you have different value files which configure this chart for different environments. So let's think about the problem. You want to do a chart update. So you say, okay, I want to update from version 43 to version 44. What happens then? So normally in a pull request, when unhydrated pull request, you would only see the change of this version and maybe also the target set file, which is then updated by Renovate, but you don't see really the changes inside of this chart. That's the problem. You would say, okay, cool, it's just an update to version 44, all fine, right? Wrong in this case. Just a point here to the hydrated one. When you see in the hydrated PR, you would see there are actually manifests which got removed. The one here from Redis, which removed from the chart itself. And you would not see it on a normal unhydrated chart because only the target set was updated. So this is something we want to avoid, and we want to avoid those kind of changes, of unseen changes, because this would break the platform, because Redis in this case is gone. And you have to provide another way to have this in your system, and you would not see this change with a regular unhydrated change update. So what we do here in this case, and we will just briefly go over it with more details, we can show this tomorrow in our workshop, when we can also have more insights on how we use it actually. But the general plan is you just say, okay, I have an update of a Helm chart by, for example, Renovate or by a developer, and then you have a Helm hydration workflow, a Helm hydration pipeline, which then renders the actual charts for the different environments and creates pull requests for each and every environment separately. And these pull requests then show all of the changes which were done with this update for all of the manifests inside, for all of the environments. And you can separately test them, merge them, and roll them out to your environments without having the problem with unseen changes on different environments. That's the general approach of this concept here. And for this, we have two workflows. We have the shared workflow, which is one which is just used for all of the Helm charts, which contains all of the logic behind this hydration itself. And then you have the local ones, which are the ones which you use in your specific Helm chart, because you have to use somehow this shared workflow. And then you have also a Helm config YAML, which is more or less a configuration file where you can specify how the shared workflow will interact with your Helm chart and configure the hydration and the environments and other stuff like this. And this is now the example of this flow itself. On the left side, you can see the shared flow on a high level. You just say it's just a workflow call, which you can just then call by other workflows, in this case GitHub. And then you have different jobs. And we will later on concentrate specifically on the hydration chart one. And on the right side, you then have the thing which you have to do on your specific Helm charts. More or less just simply call this workflow itself and provide some configurations and parameters, but in the end, you just have to call it, and the rest will be done by the actual workflow, the shared workflow. So let's just show some of the parts. As I said, we don't have time for all of the details, but in general, you just grab some basic informations from this Helm configuration. You can see on the right side, you have environments configured here, default, you have dev, and you have prod with different value files used, and also with some additional APIs which you need to configure for Argo CD to be aware of specific custom resources. You just then grab all of these informations out of this Helm configuration file, and then you start with the actual hydration. So you just have this kind of Helm template where we just have some logic which extracts here the details of the different environments. They get all of the information here additionally for the environments and for the Helm value files which are used, because every environment probably has an own value file or multiple one of them which needs to be used here. And then you specify the namespace and other stuff like output directories and so on to the whole hydration itself. And then here you can see you just have some kind of post-processing afterwards. You now have the hydrated chart for the different environments. And just as a side note, these are matrix builds, so they run in parallel then for the different environments. So it's not just one by one, it's just in parallel multiple of them for all environments. And then you have some kind of post-processing stuff which are individual for platforms, because some of them might need some additional annotations for Argo CD, because you say, okay, I want to add server-side apply to all CRDs created or other stuff which you want and need to add to your specific systems. But that's really specific on the use cases. For us, it was important to add those things. And then you can simply then fetch the details, switch to the specific branch, and this is more or less than just the details regarding the hydration environment, and you move more or less then all of the hydrated parts to the target branches, where you can then just more or less create the final step is then really to create this pull request, because in the end, you just want to have this pull request to the different environments, and that's the last step. So you just have started with configuring the environment, then you kind of Helm template all of the information like Argo CD would do it, and then you push all of the informations to the target repositories and the branches you need. And then in the end, the pull request will be created based on the hydrated manifest folder. In this case, we use a folder here, but you could also use different branches. There are multiple ways to do it. In this case, we use here folders, and then they will just more or less create these branches for you and have some kind of nice title and information to create this pull request for the different environments. And the final result is then you just have, as you can see here, for example, for the dev environment, an hydrated manifest for subchart, in this case, this version 44, and you can then see at one all changes to the specific Helm update, for example. And that's very nice, because you then have all details visible. And sure, the first one will be really hard. There will be a lot of information inside, but the later ones should be then just normally show the changes. And what's also really nice is you can also then do some kind of diffing between environments. And this here is just an example of how you would diff between I guess a dev environment and I guess a prod environment, and you just see, okay, they're cool. My update just nothing changed on the whole setup. Just the resources are different, which is expected because they have different resource things on the setup. But there's not other changes which are introduced by different settings from environments, because this could also happen that you, for example, have a change or the change on the upstream branch which you would not see on your dev environment but on your prod environment, because you have more complex setup. You have maybe HA setups and other stuff. So there are multiple changes which could be happen. And with this diff, you can then see, okay, cool, the update will not break any of the environments because the changes which are between the environments are the expected ones. So in the end, this helps us really to have really the separation between this local and this shared one, to really have a really easy way to introduce this to our existing upstream charts and to just replace them step by step where it's sensible for us to really use this new hydration setup. And it's really easy to configure this for us because we just have to provide more or less this Helm config file and can just simply add another environment when we say, okay, we need another dev environment and stuff like this. You just have to update then the Helm configuration file. And then you get just a simple update when, for example, Renovate do the changes, our pipeline will be triggered and will create the whole hydration charts for us and can be reviewed and merged. Maybe automatically when there's just a dev environment or so, then you could say, okay, I just want to test this on dev. It should be just merged, or manually review by a developer because it's a prod environment or an environment where you want to specifically check the changes because they are more complex. And this really helps us to ease our staging process for the changes. We are more confident with the changes because we see there are no breaking problems and stuff like this. And we can also see what do they introduce with the new version, because normally you just maybe check the change logs or not or whatever, but you don't have it at once in your PR. In this case, you just have it here, can simply compare them to also prevent maybe supply chain attacks with introduced changes to upstream charts which are maybe suspicious to some extent. Yeah, these are our resources. Where there's also multiple, as you can see, there's kind of source hydrator and other stuff which we normally compare, but this talk was also more, the general talk is more about 40 minutes, so we just have way more things to compare. But if you're interested in those parts, we really I appreciate you to go to our hydration workshop tomorrow, where we just have also more time to really compare those things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there any questions?
How do we make sure that you merge prod after dev?
That's a really good question. So currently, this kind of setup don't have kind of promotion gating here. That's not introduced. That's something which you, for example, have the gitops-promoter, which provide those kinds of gates. So in this specific case, it's not introduced. You just have the different PRs one by one. You have to make sure that your automatic system see those changes, and will just start with dev, local dev and prod separately. But there's no kind of gates. This is something which is in the bigger presentation when you get, for example, have the gitops-promoter, which have kind of promotion gating, and they will just provide a way that dev is always all gates of dev have to be fulfilled until they continue with the next stage. But this is not part of this workflow. It's not in this case. But fair point, good question. Thank you.
Thank you.